so today we are going to put on some Odyssey Foglights in the S2000. Hopefully this process is a bit smoother. It so far is a bit smoother than what I did on my CRX with the Prelude Fogs. So nonetheless, I'll put like a link in the description where I got them. They were cheap, like $34 or $32 DNA branded Foglights. So the kit though comes with quite a bit for $32. It comes with an entire like wiring harness with a little relay, an inline fuse, you know, the connectors for the back of the actual lights. It comes with a switch, some zip ties, bag of screws. This plugs into the actual back of the switch, which I don't believe I'm going to be running. And then it comes with some instructions. Again, the instructions are obviously for like a Honda Odyssey, but they give you basic ideas of how to wire them if you needed it. And this is what they look like. I grabbed the clear ones, still has like a piece of tape on it. So I already kind of mounted one to guys kind of figure out what I was going to do, my plan of attack, because I've never done these before. I've installed Foglights on other cars, and it always tends to be Foglights that don't go to the body of the car, like the CRX. So kind of a mess over here, but at the moment you can kind of see what the Foglight looks like. Still have the tape on it. And the trim that I use, I need to kind of cut and make it kind of glue its ends together, but it's a pretty decent fit. The rubber trim there is like just recessed a little bit there. I'm not gonna lie, there are gaps for anyone that's curious. There's like a gap you can kind of see there, very little there. The black rubber molding definitely helps hide it. And then there's gonna be this gap that's down here. The gap that's down there, I'll show you when we do the other one, basically what I did to kind of make it look a little less apparent. Here's what the back looks like. I mean, it is definitely rigid to the bumper. I'm pretty happy with the install. It was actually a little bit easier. You can see where I had to cut some stuff. But I'm going to, here you go, you can see the actual gap that's there. That trim's gonna have to be, you know, a little bit glued together. I need to cut a little longer piece, but we will do that on this one. So start by, I'm gonna grab a Dremel and I'm essentially just gonna cut this main piece out here. We're trying to leave these two tabs here. These tabs are very nice because that's kind of what I used to help mount it. What are they here for? To be honest, I have no idea. Did Honda, you know, maybe want to put some Foglights in or something? They just never did. All right, so before I even start cutting, this stock bracket here that is, you know, on here or whatever, this mounting bracket, it will not be able to slide through this hole here. So just remove it, keep the screws. So I reused them and I reused what's in the parts bag these things come with. All right, so learning from the last one, again, I would like to try to copy it, but I'm gonna try to, you know, improve on what I did so you can watch this and do things that I, you know, have learned now. Essentially, you're gonna cut out this entire like outline right here that I'm tracing with my fingers. But over here, you can leave a bit more of a chunk, because if you look at my other one here, you can see that the light's not gonna need most of that. So I'm gonna leave most of that there, which is gonna help with alleviating some of the light that can shine through the back. Again, you probably won't be able to notice it very much, but if light comes right through it, and I don't know, it was noticeable in the garage at least. So grab some safety glasses, because this plastic is gonna either kind of melt, be thrown, and just kind of start by cutting. So I'm gonna leave just that chunk that's there still right now. I just kind of honestly guesstimated, but I can tell you this little lip that I kind of left around here, it's definitely gonna need to be flattened closer to this. So I'm gonna grab the barrel sander now and just kind of sand it around and just kind of clean it up. I will have to get cutting this a little bit further out, but again, small steps, let's work our way to it. All right, so I'm pretty confident this is not gonna fit because this needs to be cut out way more, but let's just kind of see. I did cut mine open, you know, to be able to fit with this rubber grommet on, but let's just take it off right now. All right, so you can already see it. I can just tell you right now by looking at it, I need to cut this out way more, because even with this coming in, if I cut this side out right here, this bump, this is actually not gonna be able to fit in there. So I'm gonna hog some of this out here. How much? I don't know. We're just gonna we can always take more, so I'm just gonna kind of maybe take like a 1/2 inch. Alright, so I don't know how to explain this to you, but it's just sitting in there now without me having to do anything else. You can kind of get a rough look of there what I cut out. Again, less is more. This is not going to be a perfect fit. The S2KI forms, I want to say a lot of people say like an 80% fit. That's probably a good estimate, maybe even a 90%. It's definitely not 100%, and I'll show you, but so when I just kind of slide this in here, you sort of feel it with your hand, like This side over here, I'm gonna try to get it to rest as gentle and as flush against this as possible. And then it sort of just finds like its home. And if I come around now, you can kind of see this is like borderline just a little bit below the surface here. And then the rubber molding I'm gonna put is gonna cover it. And obviously this little gap here gets pretty nicely hidden by the rubber molding. So I'm gonna leave that the way it is. That looks pretty good to me. And next we will go to put some trim on here. All right, so I know it's a mess up here, but so this is the trim. If anybody's looking, this is the trim that I'm not gonna use. In case you're trying to, this is the trim that apparently goes like on all the lips and the rubber moldings that people put on the Accords, the Civics. It's kind of a universal part number. So it's called like a T-trim. And this one right next to me is another T-trim. You can see side by side the size difference of them. This one I got off Amazon. I can put a link in the description below. I am going to simply, I'm using it because it's much bigger for starters. So I'm going to just sort of wrap this roughly around here to get a size here that I'm going to need. Now the one downfall of the trim is it's not solid, you know what I'm saying? So when I get to the end here, I'm going to have to kind of use some kind of glue to make it look like a seamless transition here. Let's see if I can. All right, so look in the parts bag you got now. I've already taken some of them out, but it comes with this little, I don't know what this does, but some hardware nonetheless. There's gonna be about 4 of these things in here. I've already used 2, so I'm gonna take the remaining 2. We are going to slide one perfectly right over here. So it's like, I swear it's like it was made for this. It's a nice firm fit. Just gonna get it over the center there so you'll be able to thread it in. This one with the actual hole flat up top. This one we're gonna do the opposite. Take the light out for this one. And just slide it over like so. I may have to do a little bit more trimming, but we'll see. We'll take the light here. Slide it in. Looks like this bottom one might be rubbing the light a little bit. Let's try to get it pushed in as much as we can. All right. It actually looks pretty clear. All right, so now, so we've got something to fasten the actual Foglight to here. We're gonna put the original bracket on, which is kind of gonna act as a retainer sort of in and of itself, because it can't, the hole we just cut, it can't come out. That being said, I mean, definitely don't just put this on there and rely on that, because it's gonna straight up, I mean, the Foglight's gonna move all over the place. So what we're gonna do is, I've got some thin, this is like just some thin, I don't know, like 30 or 40 thou sheet that I got from Home Depot. I'm gonna try to attach here to here, and then basically here to here. So we're gonna start with the bottom here. Something pretty simplistic. Get a little Sharpie. I'm just gonna kind of put that down there. So I'm kind of hovering there over to here. I'm just gonna kind of draw a little line here. We don't need to go any further than this. So that can kind of be our little bracket here. So the other advantage of this being thin, if you're doing this at your house, you don't have any power tools or something like that, just use some tin snips. Kind of eyeball this roughly. So if I put a hole here in the center roughly, I'll be able to reach over here and probably even trim this up. So now, I'm just going to take this and we're just going to simply, not going to get too crazy with it. All right. And then now, let's grab a Sharpie here. And we're just gonna kind of eyeball this to the hole here. So I do want to trim those edges and stuff, but before we trim the edges, let's make sure she fits. So the other nice thing about this being thin aluminum is it's gonna kind of, as I tighten this up, this bracket will, or this little thing we're making, this little bracket will basically bend and conform sort of what it's going. We're not talking anything crazy, but you can kind of see it sort of just pulled it there. This will be plenty strong for, I mean, if you're going Baja racing or something, you know, it should still be fine, but I think you get what I'm saying. All right, literally the same idea. We're just gonna kind of, there it is. Here's where I'm gonna attach it to. We're just gonna kind of go about there-ish. A little bit past it because we're gonna just kind of bend it, but because it's easier to see the top than for me on the side here, I'm just gonna mount this side in here. Mount that first. You can see the bend that it started to want to take. So this should be pretty close here. Let's just kind of get that in. And then now I'm gonna put this in the top here and we're gonna make this work, hopefully. We'll let it kind of do its own bend. It'll establish its own, oh yeah. Without having to like really fabricate anything. I mean, anybody can make these little straps. Home Depot for, you know, I don't know, I forgot, 15, 20 bucks of these. Now this sheet is not very cheap. I think like the sheet they sell is like 25 bucks. It's much bigger than this, but I've used this all kinds of things. Ducting for the CRX, I've used it for all kinds of stuff. It's a very nice, handy little simple tool or simple material to play with. Okay, because I cut a bit too much out on this side and we didn't on the other side, we learned, so I wanted to pull this out and show you. So what I did is I kind of put a thin tape line going all the way around it, and I just sprayed some plastic tip on it. Now that does not alleviate that there's a hole over here, but what it does do is it kind of helps the contrast between the black rubber and the actual yellow of the bumper. If you had a black car, you probably would never notice this, but this plastic tip here is going to help just not show light coming through it. And I still have another idea we're going to try to fix there once we flip this around and we'll see. All right, so because I cut that out, I made a little black plastic piece, threw some 3M double-sided tape on it. Probably not necessary, but I'm going to kind of just stick that on there, and that'll also help just take up that gap that was there that I cut out, you know, that we left on that one. All right, so to take the bumper off, if you were confused in that spot, definitely YouTube LHT's bumper removal. It's pretty straightforward, simple, and to the point. So then you're gonna have a bunch of 10mm screws here. Take the headlight out. And this little support comes off. You got one up in this hole here. And I know the engine bay needs to definitely be cleaned. Just some simple EPO grease, which we're going to get to. And then there's one up about here, straight up. Kind of a pain in the butt to get to, but it's straight up there. You'll see it if you look, and once it's out, you should be able to just sort of finagle the headlight here. All right, so I'm going to kind of gently just sort of sit it right there. There are some folks that have had no issues, from what I've gathered, tying it into the running lights. Here's the entire harness. So you can see you've got ample stuff there. So what I did is I replaced this one end here, which is what would go to the fuse or the actual push button. I put a little connector on here. Here's your relay, and here's the battery fuse. And the other connector here would go to your battery. I already kind of looked at it. We've got enough room for this to come up through the passenger side, and this could mount up in there. Now, honestly, just judging by the size of the power wire and whatnot, I'm going to assume these lights don't do much draw. So you probably could just tie these directly into the factory wiring. But what I'm going to do is, just to kind of negate that potentiality of anything going wrong, I'm I'm going to use its relay that it came with and fuse, and I'm going to tie this in. Instead of this being tied into the actual push button, which is the receiver signal, I'm going to attach this like so to the actual power wire of the parking lights. So essentially when the parking lights get power, this is going to signal this as if we push the button, and it's going to trigger the relay, the fuse, grab power from the actual battery, and the battery is what's actually going to supply power to the fog light, as opposed to tying power directly from the light. So essentially it's not going to take any load. The lights themselves won't take any load from that wire. They're going to grab the load from the battery, which again, it's a pretty small wire, but that's what it came with. So I'm going to assume that these lights can handle that tiny wire and they don't pull a lot of amps. All right, so the headlight, this is the driver's side headlight. It's off. This is the parking lights all the way down at the bottom. If you pull the sleeve off here, you got some different color wires. Blacks are ground, red is power. So what I'm going to do is take this wire here that I kind of made, and I'm going to tap it into here. Now this should be ample length that it'll kind of be able to hang down below and be able to plug into this without, with being able to remove the bumper. So what we're going to do is kind of splice into this a little bit, and then we're going to solder it in, and we're going to heat shrink it. All right, so I can join it. All right, joined it. Put the heat shrink over those two. We are going to simply bump that up there a little bit. Put our pretty loom on it. Kind of running low. Otherwise I would have ran this a little further. Just some little added protection. All right, so I'm going to shove this back all into this factory loom here. That was all right. There we go. So now we'll be able to put the headlight kind of roughly back in its spot. I'm going to plug that back in. So this is quarter inch loom here. I'm going to put it down this entire red power wire, mainly because I don't want to see a red wire just kind of in the engine bay. This black wire just looks nicer, a little more inconspicuous, and overall just looks better, I think. So all right, let's recap. So here's the driver's side, here's the headlight plug itself. I kind of stuck it in this boot, definitely a tight fit, but it fits. I left excess wiring here. We're going to see if that's enough. That way I can pull the bumper off for future days, comfortable without having to snag up on wiring. I zip tied all this wiring up here against the air pump. This is the wire that was going to run to the fog light switch, but I tied it into the corner light or the parking light power wire here. And here's the ground that's just tied into this bracket for the air pump. So in the center, I routed the wire, just kind of through the back there. Kind of just sags a little bit here, right around the cross member or the T. Kind of routed it through this hole here. It looks like they wanted to put an intercooler in here at one point in time, maybe. You could route the wire back here if you wanted, but it comes through. Same thing for the headlight, leaving excess. Zip tied the excess wiring up here to this bracket here and routed the power wire up through the engine bay. Now here's where I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do yet, but the fuse and the relay right now sit right here. I could, for clean sake, tuck them down back into here because there's enough wire, and I could mount it like right here or something. My qualm with that is in the event like the relay goes bad or the fuse blows for whatever reasoning, I gotta get the bumper off to change it. So I don't know yet, we'll get there, but I think I'm gonna end up just tying this relay like right here, which kind of looks factory, doesn't look like it's out of place or anything, and just kind of shove the fuse into this hole down here. But so the power wire, now I wrapped it in some loom. We're going to tidy it up a little bit, but it wraps itself up around here underneath the fuse box and ties itself onto the battery terminal. So now let's see if we can get the bumper on, and we'll go from there. All right, I want you to note this is how much excess I've got, and the bumper is clearly separated. It'd be easy to pull it away without anything tugging. So now let's just try to push it on there, and I'll probably have to grab some of this excess and, you know, put it up underneath. But nonetheless, it's got ample room to be fed up in there. All right, so just looking at it right now, I'm really wondering if I should just get clear parking lights instead of the amber ones, and then maybe even the clear side markers. But so here it is. I get a little nighttime stuff for you too, but here's what it looks like. I think it looks pretty dang good, to be honest with you. I mean, you could always nitpick, but overall, I think it looks pretty good. Granted, it's not very dark yet. Parking lights on. There they are. All right, so the lights are off. It's dark outside. You can kind of see that the GoPro is kind of showing that. So I'm just gonna flip it just once, and that'll turn my fogs on in the parking lot. So you can see, not anything crazy, but you can kind of see over there. It's sort of lighting up on the side, and it's really hard for it to show over there because there's houses. But if there was something closer by, it would probably ricochet off that. And with the headlights on. All right, let's see what it looks like on the outside of the car. So adjust the fog lights. Fog lights and parking lights. And you can see on the ground, they are pretty equal as far as the heights of where they're at. They probably could come out more, but as far as a visual appearance, they are definitely there. Let's flip the headlights on. And there's the car. You can tell the different bulb colors for sure. So if anything, maybe change the bulb colors you want them to match. Otherwise, it's pretty nice. It's crazy. They look, honestly, look like they belong on the car. So another thing, since they're tied into the parking lights now, if I just, you know. All right, so this wraps up that fog light install. Hopefully this helps somebody out, or, you know, just gives you an idea of how to go about this, or if you even want to do it. For under 40 bucks, I don't think I could beat the price of these fog lights. It's just a great bang for your buck, and I think it looks phenomenal. And it looks like it almost belongs there. So I am contemplating on replacing the amber blinkers on the fenders and the headlights themselves, the parking lights, maybe making them clear. I don't know if I'm gonna like it or not, just kind of a debate. I'm going back and forth now after looking at the clear fog lights. I do think I'm gonna have to play with the bulbs in the fog lights or something along those lines to just get something that matches the HIDs a bit better. But overall, again, super happy. I did get the idea from numerous threads on s2ki.com, but I couldn't find any actual like tutorial that like showed you exactly how to go about it or what they needed to do. I saw a bunch of stuff, just cut it out and go for it. So that's essentially what I just did and made it my own. You probably could have ran the fog light switch if you wanted. I didn't see any clean area inside the car really to put it. I know some people put it underneath the dash and all kinds of areas. I just figured this was the easiest method for now. And because I left all that wire in there, if I need to go back at a later date, I can, you know, and do something else. It's a simple, just unplug that wire and I can route something into the engine bay. Very fast and easy to run the switch if I need to. Other than that, I appreciate everybody for watching. Stay tuned for more. I've got some other couple things. I just made a catch can, made an intake for the car just to kind of clean up the engine bay a bit than what it already is. And I think next, taking the CRX to the drag strip. I got a bunch of stuff already recorded. I just need to get around to putting this out. So again, I appreciate everybody for watching. Do leave any comments, questions, concerns about what I just did down below. And again, appreciate everybody for watching. Tune in for next time.